Some things that you need to know to be really good at self-protection, at keeping yourself and your loved ones safe. Right here, this beautiful Radian weapon, that's self-protection with a law folder on it. Maybe that's self-protection. How about this? Little 5-shot snubby. That could be self-protection. Yeah, I think so. How about that? Maybe that is self-protection. Could be. Self-protection is not a tool. It's not this badass rifle. Self-protection, self-defense, protection of life is not a chemical irritant that you carry in your pocket. It's not a martial art. It's not a belt that you tie around your waist. It's not a little bag that you throw over your shoulder to go. It's all of those things, but more importantly, it's the dominating thoughts of your supercomputer. Self-protection is the system, the way, right? When we look at martial arts, Taekwondo, Hapkido, that do means the way. The way of self-protection is all of the cumulative choices that you make. I just watched a documentary this morning. Today is the last day of 2024. Happy New Year to you. My little brother, Tom, who's a grown-ass man, 40 years old, 41 actually now, did a great documentary recently on tower climbing. Yeah, the towers that our cell phones and radios and all that talk to. He was a tower climber, and now he's making documentaries about that industry to raise awareness about safety, something that he and I have both talked about a lot in our youth and as adults. We worked together in the construction trades. He went to the Army. I started a family. And one of the guys that he just interviewed is kind of like a pioneer in the cell tower field. And he tells this story. I'll link it in the description. You can go check the documentary out. But he tells a story about a high tower. And they've got like special verbiage for the type of tower. But when I say high, I mean like 1,500 feet is this tower. He's supposed to go do it, and he doesn't go. He takes another job. The tower collapses and kills 7 men, and I believe he knew all of them. Usually when something like that happens, investigators can pick things apart and they can see little failure points. It could be an improper bolt. It could be the torque specifications on the bolt. It could be improper fasteners in general. It could be some climatic things like high winds. It could be an improper rigging on the crane. It could be all of those things together. When we get into the self-defense thing where we're starting to talk about violence, those same investigations can be done. We can look and we can see where parts were missing or where the parts fell apart. You know, when we think about home or office or building defense, right? We'll just say home protection or home defense. Oftentimes people will say, I've got this handgun, this pistol for home defense or for self-protection in the home. If that or this or the shotgun, like the recent videos we were just doing, is the method for protection, what about all the other stuff? Are we off climbing a tower, but we're not checking the weather? We're not checking the tools, the torque specs, the right fasteners, all those things? The way that we protect ourselves is the same way that the military, embassies, people that are professionals in protection of dignitaries or people that hire them to do it, things that they know. It's concentric layers, concentrics. Right here, right now around me. Yeah, this is really important right here, right now around me, because if trouble gets all the way to me, I've got to have a way to stop trouble. But how about the walls around me? Am I having and engaging good locking mechanisms? Do I have a good sturdy door? Do I have a backup to that door? Do I have a door outside my door, like a security door? How are my windows locked? What is the material my windows are made out of? Am I on a first floor, a second floor, a third floor? Am I in a busy area or am I in a rural area? What's outside that door? Am I right up against a street, or do I have hundreds of yards of field or forest around me, or even perhaps miles? And just because you're out in the middle of nowhere doesn't necessarily mean that you're safer from a threat. In fact, it might be harder for help to come. It might be easier for somebody to sneak up on you if you live in a quiet environment. These are just examples, right? Outside, do I have cameras? Do I have a way for me to see what's going on out there? Is that camera or cameras placed overtly where potential bad people could see it and say, you know what, I don't think I want to get caught on camera tonight? Do I have signage that says that this property's under surveillance? Do I have good lighting? Do I have lighting that helps illuminate the doors and the windows and the areas that somebody might want to get in? If there is an area that is like a nice spot to get in, what would a nice spot be? Maybe somewhere, a window hidden by bushes, maybe a door that's on the back of the house up against a dark tree line. Do I have that door maybe extra secured? What does extra mean? Maybe instead of just a simple doorknob and latch, maybe I've got multiple deadbolts. Maybe I've got some way to further buttress that door, which I've got a couple videos on, to help it stay shut so somebody doesn't go hide behind your house and kick that door in. Personal protection is not just a thing. It's not, I said, a belt. It's not a martial art, because that belt or martial art doesn't stop you from getting in a car crash. It doesn't stop you from becoming a victim of other things. How about our physical health? Something that I try to talk about a lot, something I've not always done in my life as a younger man. In my late teens, early 20s, man, I smoked cigarettes. It was too cool. It was too cool until it became a habit. And then I was sucking down cigs all day at work. Well, that's dumb, right? I've got this idea to protect myself because I dig being alive. I want to be here for my family, my friends. And I want to see all the sunsets that I can, right? But I can't do that if I've got cancer, emphysema, COPD, whatever, because I've chose to make bad choices. I don't want to make the video about cigarettes, but our choices with health supporting living a long, full life. That's really my goal. This thing's great. Love these firearms. In a recent video, I shot one of these a mile. Just a basic carbine with a really small scope on it. I shot it a mile with no bipod, no sandbags, just me in the dirt. That was cool. These guns are capable, but they're not going to stop diabetes or heart disease. They're not going to stop something that I made a bad choice on. What kind of bad choice? Oh, I don't know, maybe running my mouth out in public where I don't have that thing with me to back me up. Not that I should run my mouth because I have a tool to back me up, but do we always have said item? Well, yeah, of course I do. Really? You've never been in an airport? You've never been in a political building that you're not allowed to have them? You've never been naked in a hospital getting an operation? There are plenty of times and places that we are vulnerable without the tools, which means that we need physical skills as part of our tools, right? We get these little ideas like it's a tool in the toolkit. Yeah. You go watch a good carpenter, and that dude's only got a few good tools. Yes, he may own a garage or a truckload of tools, but by and large, the tool pouches that carpenter's got on are pretty basic. Dude's got a tape measure, got to be able to measure. Dude's probably got a hammer. He's probably got a knife. He's probably got a chalk line in there. He's probably got a pencil, depending on the type of carpentry. Maybe he's got some nail punches. Like a framing carpenter is probably not going to sit with a nail punch and be setting nails, right? So it depends on the job, but really it's just a small handful of stuff that a guy can put up the whole superstructure of a house. It's the skill with the tool that matters, right? I wanted to have this discussion because so often I look at the comments a lot, and some people say, never look at the comments. Well, no, to hell with that. We are having interaction. We're using these social media platforms to communicate, to interact, to connect. That's important to me. But too often we're looking at this little thing. I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy this thing, and this thing makes me safe. Of course it doesn't. Those men that had that tower collapse, all of them had tons of experience. Something fell apart. Airplane crashes, there is a reason. And if you're not an aviation expert, a pilot, an engineer, maybe the reason doesn't make sense to us. I'm not a pilot, I'm not an aviation expert, but I enjoy reading about it. I like looking at failures in aviation as a lesson for me in my life. Spent my whole life in construction and was able to get through it without anything but minor injuries, a cut or a scrape, where we did some pretty risk-heavy things, like rappelling off of buildings 50 or 100 feet in the air, being up very high on church steeples. And we did that looking at it and not just saying, a man would get up there, just do it. No, we said, how can we do this safely so that at the end of the day, we're sitting at the dinner table with our kids? Too often, we look at these items as an afterthought. We toss it in our pocket, our belt, whatever, and we go off into the world as if we've checked the safety box. A couple things as we go into the new year. Something that I'm constantly striving to do. It's not safety from the perspective of I want to bubble wrap myself. I love doing things, man. I go out in the ocean, jump in and swim around, ride cool machines, climb on things that are high. I like to do things. I spend my life around firearms, right? I do martial arts like jiu-jitsu. Things can happen. You can get hurt, but how can I limit and mitigate risk through proper choices? So when we talk about our security in this new year, take a look at what you're doing. Take a step back, big, high in the sky look and say, man, if I wanted to break into my house, how would I do it? If it's as simple as walking up to your front door and just a swift kick's going to blow that door apart, and that's an easy few $100 fix to sturdy up that front door. How about your back door? Okay, cool. All right, my house has got a little bit of hardening to it. The doors and windows I've taken a look at. I've done some things to make them harder to just kick in. How can I make my house unattractive? Some exterior lighting, some cameras, right? Do I have a dog? Dog doesn't need to be an attack dog. That dog can be nothing more than an early warning signal. We've used this idea for years. Awareness, eyes, ears, nose, right? Our nose can tell us things. If you've ever gone to fire science school or ever had a fireman come teach you at school, right? You can touch a door to see if it's warm before you open it. So we've got more senses than just our sight and our hearing. We use our senses, taking information around us to figure out if there's something in the environment that can hurt me. So awareness buys us time to act. The farther out I can project my awareness away from my bed or my couch, the more time I can have to retrieve a tool, to fall back to a position that I can defend, to grab my family and center up. I'm not talking about CQB in your house or fighting a bunch of people. God forbid that should happen. I'm saying having the time to be able to enact a plan. Because if the plan is I just put this thing next to my bed, and in case somebody wakes me up in the middle of the night and I open my eye and go, oh crap, there's people in my house, my plans have failed. They've breached the fence. They've come across my lawn or my yard. They've opened a door or doors. They've covered space inside my house and found me naked and in bed. That's shit. That's a shit sandwich in a bad way. So look at your home, get up into that global view and go, how can I make this thing a less likely target? How can I, and you might need to ask some questions. You might need to do some research. You can't just always click on a 3-minute YouTube video and go, oh yeah, I can get abs in 5 minutes, right? I can learn how to create lovely French pastries in 5 minutes. I can learn how to do XYZ. That's kind of how we all want to do things. If your life and your home and your family is worth defending, you may need to spend some time. Switch gears from the physical structure of your home to the physical structure of your body. Guys get mad at me and they say, I'm not young anymore. Well, neither am I. We're always on a curve. I want to tell you a story. We started a new series and it's called Men That I Learned Something From. Men Worth Learning From. First one I told you about was my friend Gary Wizawati. So we'll end this video with a lesson from my friend Jerry. I was the president of the Right to Carry Association. Jerry, lovely, kind, wonderful man, well-spoken. He was always trying to help people. In his 70s, he was the oldest man every year that shot down in Florida at the Single Stack Nationals. Lifelong shooter, reloader, Army guy. If you needed something, man, he could fix it. He'd be there to help you. The guy was a primo human. A little smaller, statured, 130, 140 pounds, maybe 150. Little guy. And Jerry always had stuff, man. He always had knives and guns. And people would like make fun of him because he'd have a knife hanging around his neck. He'd have a knife in his boot. He'd have a knife on his belt. He'd have a knife in his pocket. And I know that this guy had all kinds of other things to protect himself. And people would say, "Are you paranoid, Jerry?" And he'd say, "No, I'm not paranoid. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm in my 70s. If some guys like you knock me down, I'm not going to spring up and be able to have a fisticuffs." He's like, "I'm going to have to get vicious and violent quickly, protect my brain, and slash, cut, fight, whatever to get back to my feet or to stop you from killing me. Otherwise, it's curtains." This guy was very physically capable for his age at every age that I knew him, and I knew him for a good long time. He passed a couple years ago. I remember being at the funeral and thinking, like, this guy did it, man. He made it to old age. He died prematurely for us because we loved him and we miss him. But he did it. Nobody ever got the better of him. He would have these fun systems. He'd have a drink after work or in his retirement at the end of the day. Him and his lovely gal would go into their home, and when they would make a cocktail, to them it mentally meant like, okay, we're shutting the world off because we are going to have a drink, and that's going to diminish our ability to fight and do all those things. So the alarm got set on the house. The doors got locked. The house got kind of put in like lockdown mode, so to speak, and they would have their cocktail and they'd go to sleep and do their thing. He was a very regimented guy in the systems and processes, including physical health. This guy could do push-ups and things like that in his 70s. He wanted to be the best version that his body would allow him to be at the different stages of his life. And that, I think, is a great lesson from Jerry. I can't do the same things I could do as a young man. I'm trying to do 20 or 30 push-ups now instead of 50 or 60, but I'm still going to do 20 or 30, maybe even 40 push-ups, maybe not the 50, 60, or even 100 that a guy could do when he's 18, 19, 20. That doesn't mean you say, I can't do 100 push-ups, so I'm going to do no push-ups. You keep trying, you keep pushing, you keep doing. And it's not because we're scared of some proverbial group of bad guys jumping us. Man, if your life is important enough to protect, you need to be physically capable. You need to have some cardio. You need to have enough endurance that you can look your family in the eye and say, I did my best. Could you imagine having to swim or rescue your family from a burning building or something like that? And these things happen. These are not just things that don't happen. Just several years ago, down the road, Huntley, Illinois, you can look this up, a car tumbles over off of an interstate into a retention pond. And somebody starts filming it. The car's upside down, and all of these people were just watching, and they're like, I can't do anything. I don't know what to do. The glass won't break. And all of a sudden, some man just comes blazing off the highway. I think he was like a truck driver, and he's like, I know what to do. I'm going to close the distance and get to those people, and I'm going to break the glass, and I'm going to pull them out of that car underwater, and I'm going to take them where they can get air into them. And he did just that. He was capable. He was ready. He said, I've thought about this before. I know that I've got the chops to do it. He wasn't decrepit. He wasn't beat up, and he acted. I hope that these conversations spark something inside of you, like the men like Jerry sparked inside of me, to think, to reason, to look at the world around me and say, how can I plug things into this life, not just so that I can be safer, but so that I can extract more joy out of it and give joy back to others around me, like guys like Jerry did for me. This new year, something that I'm going to be working on is an attitude of gratitude, being grateful. We'll do a video on that perhaps tomorrow. Mickey with CarryTrainer.com. Your safety is not about the tool. It's not about the projectile. It's not about the lock on the door or the camera. It's about all of it. It's about how you perceive the world and about the things you put into it. Be well. Don't be dickheads. I hope 2024 kicked the donkey's ass. And if it didn't, I'm sorry. I hope this next year is going to be better. You make it so. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Oh, I wanted to show you my beaver. Check this out. You perverts. This is a little beaver I picked up on one of my road trips this year in Montana. Isn't that a little cool beaver? I don't know the story about where they trapped it or why, but I bought it from a little store on the side of the road. Pretty crazy. See you guys soon. Bye now.